Welcome to the RIISE podcast, where inclusivity is our priority. Hello, everybody. My name is Sean English. I am the host of the RIISE podcast. Welcome to episode 3. Here we have my guest, Evan Austin. Evan, can you just say hi real quickly?
Yeah, what's going on?
Okay, so I'm really excited about this, if you guys can't tell. Evan is an incredible athlete, Paralympian, and I'm just going to give a little short bio, and then we're going to jump right into things like we normally do. So Evan is a 28-year-old Paralympic swimmer from Terre Haute, Indiana. I got that one right?
Nice.
Okay, good. He graduated from ISU in 2019 with a degree in sports management. He is a 2-time Paralympian and planning to compete in Tokyo this upcoming summer, pending Olympic trials. Evan is currently a volunteer assistant coach of the Purdue women's swimming and diving team, and he is coming off a gold at Worlds in 2019. A gold medal, ladies and gentlemen, a gold medal. First question, we'll talk about a lot of things, but was it heavy? I've always wondered, is it heavy?
It's pretty dense. Yeah, there's something to it. You know,
There's something to it?
You certainly feel it in your hand. You know, it's not like those paper thin ones that you used to get, competing as like a little kid. It's pretty tactile.
Okay, I wanted to ask that one right away. So let's talk a little bit about your life before we get into Tokyo and London and Rio and even Worlds again in London. So let's talk a little bit about your life. What makes you a Paralympian per se? Like, talk about your story. You can talk about anything that you want right here. Let's just get to know you a little bit more, the person.
Yeah. Let's see. What makes me a Paralympian? I was born with a genetic disorder I inherited from my mother. It's called familial spastic paraparesis. It's a genetic disorder that presents itself very similarly to cerebral palsy, CP, which is pretty common. There's just a few key differences. There's a dormancy that can exist with our disease. So my mother, she didn't actually present any symptoms until her mid-40s. And for me, I had symptoms when I was about 2 or 3 years old. So it can be in your body and kind of attack, your system at any point. I got mine early, which all things considered was actually kind of a blessing, because this has been my normal my entire life. I've had to watch my mother kind of adjust, after having lived so many years being fine, and then the disease hit her too. So I inherited my disease from my mother, and something that kind of like binds us together, makes us a little bit closer, which is kind of cool. But I have an older brother who's able-bodied. Not anything wrong with him, freaking golden child. But his name's Adam, and he's just under 2 years older than me. And our parents, raised us identically. They didn't make any, special exceptions because I had a disability, and they didn't, cater to anything. Like, it was no feel sorry for yourself, in my household. And Adam was a star athlete. Like, he was just always good at gym, right? Like, when he went to PE class, like, everyone was like, "Oh, get Adam." Because like, we just did everything growing up. We played t-ball and soccer and basketball, and we were not allowed to play football because my mom didn't want us to get brain damage. But like, other than that, like, we did everything. And so I was born and bred in this family of just like this competitive spirit. And so whatever my older brother did, I did as well. So Adam played t-ball, I played t-ball 2 years later. Adam played basketball, I played basketball 2 years later. Adam played soccer, I played soccer 2 years later. And when I was a kid and my disease was just starting to present itself, there were no, major differences, I guess, between me and other 3-year-old, 4-year-old kids. I mean, we're all, just derps running around, trying to like hit a baseball, or, you got like bumblebee soccer where they're just buzzing around the ball on the field. So, it was fine. But as I started to get older and my disease started to present itself more severely, I had to kind of remove myself from athletics completely. And I had this surgery, pretty invasive surgery, when I was 6. And that left me sidelined, I guess is what you would call it. But I was paralyzed essentially from the waist down, couldn't move for 6 to 8 months or something like that. I was in these leg long splints, like when you jam a finger, they give you something like just right here. I had that from ankle, to my hip joint, basically on both legs, for multiple months. And it sucked. It really did. Like I was a kid and all I wanted to do was just play, like sports and just go outside and be with friends. Right. So I really, at a young age, grew up real fast, like in such a short amount of time, when you like have this realization that like maybe I'm not going to be like all the other kids. Right. And so I started to miss things that kids usually don't miss, like going outside and playing sports or just playing tag or hide and go seek or whatever. I just wanted to be part of the group that like, I just wanted to be a kid. So I finally recovered from my surgery and started to get literally my legs back under me. And the disparity between what I used to be kind of comparable playing with kids to post-surgery, I mean, I wasn't even close. And that was tough. That sucked, honestly. I wanted to play baseball, but I couldn't run the bases. I wanted to play soccer, but there's no way I could run up and down the field. Like I wanted to play basketball, but I just didn't have stamina to just do hot laps, up and down the court. Meanwhile, Adam, my older brother, is excelling at all these things, right? Like, it's just killing me. But Adam has one kryptonite his entire life. To this day, he still jumps in a pool and like holds his nose so no water gets up there. And so I always had an affinity for the water. Like that was like a sanctuary for me, very therapeutic, and it helped like in my recovery process too. Like water is weightless and my joints could move more freely, and my parents noticed kind of this affinity that I had and suggested that I sign up for the swim lessons. And so I did. And I loved it. I literally fell in love with it. I didn't have people looking at me, or if they were, I couldn't see them because my head was in the water, my face was in the water. I couldn't hear people, saying things or even, yelling at me or like whatever. I was just in my own space. Mm-hmm. And I love the feeling. And so I completed these swim lessons and was recommended by my instructor to sign up for our local swim team in Terre Haute called the Terre Haute Torpedoes. And so my family was like, yeah, let's go for it. Let's do it. And from the moment I signed up, like, this is my thing. I'm going to be a swimmer, and that's all I want to do from now. I don't want to try and catch up to the other kids. I'm not here to play basketball or baseball or soccer, whatever. Like, this is my thing. And I was all in. I just went to top gear and wanted to get better. And so I spent years just grinding. I just love the feeling that like I'm in my spot, I'm in my zen area, I'm getting better. I had to deal with frustrations, being an impaired kid, having a physical impairment. Like childhood's not easy. I had to deal with bullying and constant self-esteem issues and all these things. And when I was in the water, like that just evaporated. I was only looking at a black line and, just in my zone. And so, flash forward, I turned 15 years old and I'm approached by this, random coach at a swim meet saying like, hey, have you ever heard of the Paralympics? And I was, no, I have no idea what that is. And he's like, well, can I talk to your coach about it? And I was like, yeah, he's right over there. Whatever, you can do you, man. And so he educates my coach on like this whole movement that is made for adaptive sport athletes that have impairments, like physical impairments, visual impairments. And my initial reaction was, I want nothing to do with it. The last thing I want to do is be another spectacle. Like I don't want people looking at me because I have an impairment, because I have a disability. Like that whole notion made me just immensely uncomfortable. And my coach is a really intuitive guy and big on research and really, really smart. And he did, pretty extensive stuff and was like, I don't think we're right about what we think about this. I don't think it's hey, look at all the disabled kids. Like they're trying. Like, he's like, it's a competitive whole show. Like it's a big deal. Because I was like, I'm starting to loosen my grip on, I don't want to be a part of this. And so we decided I had made trials cuts in 2015. 2008, I was 15 years old. And so we went up to Minneapolis, Minnesota, at University of Michigan, and I went to my first meet for Paralympics, and ended up becoming an alternate for the '08 Beijing team. And it kind of just in a way hit me like, oh man, I could have done something really special up here. Like I was about to go to Beijing, China to represent Team USA at the Paralympic Games. Like that's a huge deal. And like, I don't know why I'd been so against the entire notion of it. So I came back to Indiana and had a couple days break where, just a sob story, like, why is life so unfair? I should have made that team, whatever. And I come to practice like 3 or 4 days later, and I'm still I'm singing the blues. And my coach deadpan stares me in the face, and he's like, do you hate the way you feel right now? And I was like, yeah, this is the worst. I never want to feel like this again. And he, really? You never want to feel like that again? No, I never want to feel like this again. Will you promise me that you'll do everything in your power never to feel that way again? And I just kind of, yeah, I do promise. And for 4 years, I was after it. I was 15 to like 19 years old. This thing called becoming a man happened. And like, all of a sudden I'm like $165, I'm 6 foot and, still growing. And, I get to trials in 2012 and I'm like, all right then, like, let's do this. And I had the meet of my life and went 13 for 14 best times. I think I set 11 American records or something like that. And my name was announced. And it's still a moment. I'm seeing it clear as day. I jump up, my coach jumps up, my family, they bear hug me, and I just walk down and, they say congrats and they give me this goodie bag, and I'm 19 years old, just trying to keep it together, but like, just these non-stoic tears. I'm not, just having like a huge cry fest, and it's been an unbelievable journey since. I went to London and I didn't win any medals, and then I, went to Rio and still didn't win any medals, and then I went to Worlds in 2019 back in London and won my first major hardware at World Championships, won a World Championship gold, and the plan is to go to Tokyo and make it 3rd time's a charm and bring back some fun hardware.
Yeah, I would love to see that. And I'm rooting for you, of course.
Thank you.
I am incredibly impressed with that story, and I can relate to some of that in my own way.
Yeah.
I wasn't as young as you were, but I was like a junior in high school when I lost my leg.
Yeah.
And like the people looking at me weird, that's the thing that I didn't understand. And somebody talked about the Paralympics, and I thought the exact same way as you. I thought I was kind of like alone when I thought that way.
Right.
And I think that's something that hopefully the direction of this podcast makes it we didn't have a stigma going into it because we didn't really know much about the Paralympics,
Right.
but just the immediate negative effect was just long-term, just negative connotations resulting from a disability.
Right.
So anytime you think of a disability, people will think like the term weak,
right.
or you can't do certain things. Like, we need to get rid of that. And that's hopefully the goal of this podcast, is to get rid of that. So when young children hear that there is this thing called the Paralympics, they can be excited about it.
Oh,
and I'm really excited to hopefully make that impact. But just touching on your story real quickly, I think we all have that coach in our life that keeps us grounded, keeps us driven, and wants us to succeed in the best way we can succeed. And I think that's extremely important. For me, that was my dad. My dad was my coach my whole life.
Nice.
But we're not just talking about coaches. Everyone has their quote unquote coach that keeps them really driven and focused. And I'm very excited to hear that you had the same thing as well.
Yeah, I am just a product of my village, right? Like, my community support system has never wavered. My family has been unbelievable. My father as well, you know, just a huge part of my life. My mother, I watched her transition from having no symptoms, and, you know, now her symptoms actually present themselves more severely than mine. And so the strength I, you know, gathered from watching, you know, my mom do it, I have no room to complain if my mother's out here, you know, in her mid 40s when she gets diagnosed, and she's just, you know, that's part of her new normal, right? And so I also had my brother, right? Like, God love him. If I didn't have the person I looked up to and I wanted to be the most, which is my older brother, I wanted to be better than him at everything. I wanted that competitive edge. I had that drive because of him. Like, my older brother Adam's my hero. It's crazy, and it's not easy. It's never easy, right? Relationships strain, and the processes get difficult, and stresses arise, and you have injuries, and, you know, more complications, and but my community support just like never stopped with me. There, you know, I had bumps for sure for me. Like, I created adversities in my life where I didn't take it as seriously, or my, you know, motivation drifted, and theirs never did. So I think you're right. Your dad and your other, you know, community support, and your village. I mean, that's why I'm here. That's why I've had the success I have.
Yeah, I think just that perspective switch that we talked about earlier, where you were crying or you were sad about like not winning or not being better or not feeling accomplished, and your coach was just like, use that. That's
Right.
that's your fuel right now. And I think I went through something similarly as well, where I was like, I could cry, or I could just do my life, you know, like this is
Right.
crying isn't gonna bring my leg back. Crying isn't gonna rebirth you as your brother, you know, like. And I think that's the huge perspective that everyone in this movement that we're talking about has, is we could cry about it, but there's no reason to. And that's the thing I love about the Paralympic movement too, is because you're not jumping in the pool with the only like crazy story.
No.
You are one of every single athlete that has one of those stories. Maybe
Right.
in the Olympics, there's the one runner that gets out of the small hometown or a third world country because he's
Right.
fast. Like, that's a really cool story, but
Right.
nobody has the, I had to watch my mom deal with the same battle that I had to deal with. And
Right.
you even saying that you're lucky is that mindset that I wish everyone in the world had.
Right.
And that's the whole point of this podcast, again, is to get that mindset out so people don't have to be diagnosed with a disability to really understand their worth
Right.
and value.
Yeah, that's the big thing is there needs to be a, you know, a continental shift in perspective value, right? Like, everyone has something, like, and gratitude too. Like, yeah, my deck of cards, I got dealt a bad hand, right? But I'm at the table and I'm going to play them hard, right? And so many people, they forget that. I mean, you cannot change a lot of things like this. There's no cure for mine, right? You cannot regenerate your leg. Like, what do you do? Stop living? Like, that's ludicrous to me. You know what I mean? Like, and I have other skills, right? Like, I have things in my head that make sense to me that I think about, that someone that hasn't had a disability or a diagnosis of like an impairment, that wouldn't even cross their mind, right? So like, I have input that able-bodied people don't see, right? And you have input that other people don't see. And so I think we just have to, like, this podcast is so important because you got to get to know everyone. You can't make up your own idea of what this person has and their value that they like can bring to me. I mean, like, you have value. Sean, you started this podcast, right? Like, you've given me a platform to talk. You've given multiple people a platform to talk. That's important, right? And hopefully you've given multiple people an opportunity to listen. And when they're listening, hopefully they're learning, right? So just want to let you know, like, you're making an impact right now, and like that needs to be, you know, commended.
I'm very happy to hear that, because that's all I want to do is scratch the surface on what these athletes and this movement is capable of.
Right.
And I'm very excited to do so. Very excited to have you here too. You said that got dealt a bad hand, but I'm still at the table. That's going to be a nice little like quote that I can put up for, like making my job. I'm a communications major. I'm not one of the digital engineer people.
Right, right,
I
right.
don't even need to listen to the whole podcast to find a nice quote to throw up on Instagram, because that's a good one right there. I'm really excited.
I'm glad I could provide that for you.
Yeah, so let's talk about Worlds.
Yeah.
You've had this Paralympic experience going into Worlds. You've graduated college. You've really become the person that you want to be, and it's time for you to receive that hardware that you've always wanted to talk about. What was that feeling of just maybe popping out of the pool for the first time, maybe seeing your parents' faces? Like what I just want to know what that feeling's like.
Yeah, I mean, it's heavy. It's but in a good way. Like it's dense. I guess that's the better word. Um, there's just so much going on, and yet it feels like, the journey from lane 4 to, the ladder at the side of the pool. I mean, that could have taken 25 minutes for all I know. I mean, I turned and I actually heard that I won before I saw it, right? Like, so the board was on the opposite end. So like when I finished, my butterfly, touched the wall, it's actually behind me. So I have to pull a full 180 to like read the board. And my eyes aren't so good at long distances anyway. So like, but I finished, and they had commentary, kind of blasting through the whole, natatorium. And all I heard was this guy yell like, and Evan Austin wins his first world championship. And like, that was the first thing I heard. And I mean, before I could even like gather what was going on, like I'm making eye contact with my mother and father. Oh man, talking about this. And it was just, it just meant a lot, because in my family, the movie Cool Runnings is like a huge part of my family. My grandparents had it, and like that's all like other than that, it was, these black and white films from like way back in the day. So Cool Runnings I watched every time I went to my grandparents' house. And there's a quote in that movie that says, if you're not enough without a gold medal, you'll never be enough with it. And it just like, it comes to mind just to keep us grounded. Like if my life's a failure because I don't win a gold medal, and I've done all this other amazing stuff along this journey, then I think I'm missing the point completely. Like, yeah. I'm not saying I don't want to win a gold, but I'm not saying my life won't be considered success if I don't. But I think the biggest thing for me that like winning a world championship was a couple things. On my day that I was called to be the best, I was the best. Like I didn't even go best time. I was better than everyone else in the field that day. And so like, that was huge for me. That like, I had my upstairs neighbors are vacuuming. If you can hear that, I'm so sorry. I had the ability to like test me. Like that's what athletics and competition is about. Like who's the best? Like that's why we do this. And on my day that I was called to be the best, I was the best. And two, like medals don't mean that much to me. In fact, I don't even have it here. Like it's not even in my apartment. I could give something tangible to my community. I could like I could let my father and my mother like hold a gold medal. I could give that to my brother and say like, this is as much yours as it was mine, because without you, I wouldn't have become this, right? And my coach and my team, like I could show them like, guys, you put work in and things like this happen. Like, that's cause and effect. Like I didn't just wake up and win a world champion. Like I busted my backside for over a decade, well over a decade, yeah, to compete for less than 30 seconds and make this happen, right? Like it's crazy. And so, I just remember it being like really special just because of the look in my father's eyes. Like I said, it's pretty heavy. I just wanted to make them proud. And I know that they were immensely proud anyway. And they don't care if I never won a gold. I could have gotten DQ'd that race and they still would have been immensely proud. But like seeing them watching their son become world champion, it was like the best. I mean, it's the best moment. And then since that day, I can't listen to the national anthem without being on the podium, right? Like I can't be in that moment. I can't, like, even at Big Tens. Well, I just got back from coaching Big Tens last week. You know, they played before every final session, and the only thing that's in my head is like I'm in the London Aquatic Center and I'm looking at the flag being raised for me, and I hear that song. And so I just remember being just so vivid. I mean, if you asked me to recreate the whole thing to it, like the perfect detail, I think I could do that just from my head, because it was just, I mean, that's the best day of my competitive life. Like in my swimming career, that, I mean, nothing even comes close to that.
Yeah, that's that gives me chills just thinking about the national anthem and just everything in general. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about I have some questions that I have to ask you, and some of them relate to you coaching. So for those of you that don't know, Kelsey is part of the exec board here with RIISE, and she's also part of the women's swimming team. And Evan is the volunteer assistant coach for the women's swimming team. So we have a little overlap there. So I got some inside information before I could even tell him. And I haven't told him some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about here.
Yeah, I'm totally I have no idea what's going on here.
So, and these could be some hit or miss ones. These are just some things that she told me. And I was wondering, like, I've got like 6 questions.
Yeah.
Is there a song that you like to listen to during practice? And then I have in quotes, potential breakup song. I don't know what this is referenced to, but I would love to hear some more.
So I believe the artist is Allie and AJ.
From maybe Austin and Allie? Is that it? I don't remember.
Some sisters on Disney Channel back in the day.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Well, there's a playlist that plays. I mean, if we have, 90% of the practices, I mean, it plays all the time. And this song, it must be on that playlist 45 times. I don't like, it seems like it's every other song is potential breakup song. And every time it comes on, I have this huge fit, like, why is this song playing? And then like 38 seconds later, I'm singing the chorus. So everyone's like, is this your favorite song? And I'm like, I hate this song, but I hear it so much, I can't not sing along. So like, Kelsey, yeah, thanks for that. That's one of the worst songs ever made, in my opinion. That's just me. But I mean, I just hear it so much, and every single time I have this huge breakdown, like I flip out, I'm very exaggerated about that kind of stuff. And every single time, the women on the team are just like, I think is this the first time we've ever heard this song? Like, how does this song go? And I'm like, I just get so agitated. So I feel like someone's added that song, 4 or 5 times to the playlist, just so I have to hear it multiple times to practice. So no, that is not my favorite song, Kelsey. I don't really know. Coach Dan, actually, on the men's team, he has some fire playlists that, like, when we're kind of like transitioning out of our practice and the men's team is arriving for their workout, he'll just plug in the aux, and he's got some cuts on there. It's a nice way to leave the pool, Yeah. So I don't really know if I have a favorite during practice, but I do have a least favorite, and that would be potential breakup song.
That's funny. So when it comes to competing, let's hear like your favorite event, your favorite pool you've ever competed in. Do you have like any specific favorites? Do you have a least favorite, like, event, pool, anything?
Favorite pool. I mean, London Olympic pool was like unbelievable. It's crazy.
That's full circle for you right there.
Yeah. Between that being the first, that was my first games, right? So like that was first pool I swam in, like in the village, and then to come back and win my first, gold medal there was like, nothing. That takes the cake, you know what I mean? Yeah. Least favorite pool. I actually do have one, and I'm sure it's a great pool, but like the circumstance of what happened around the meet that I was competing in, I mean, this is the worst pool in America to me. Like, I mean, it's dumpster fire. There's this pool, and I don't even know the town name. It's outside of Tucson, Arizona. We were having national championships there, and it was December, I don't know, 15th or something, like mid-December, and this pool is outside. And I was like, okay, well, it's in Arizona. It should be fine. I'd never been to Arizona until this time. Arizona is a desert, which means no heat is retained. You know, as soon as the sun goes down, temperature drops like, you know, a brick off the side of a mountain. Like it's, and so it's mid-December. It's freezing. And everyone's like, well, you just got to wait for the sun, you know, to heat up the pool. Turns out it's placed directly next to, I wouldn't call this a mountain, but a very large hill, which is like in the east. It's east of the pool. So, you know, we'd come in at like, you know, 7:30 when warm-up started, and the sun's nowhere close to getting over this mountain. So like the first little like breath of sunlight that we would hit would arrive at like noon when the session's about over. So it was like 28 degrees on deck or something like that. I'm running around in a Speedo. I'm 90% naked. I'm freezing. Every part of my body is like, it's not working because I'm so cold. And to the point where I scratched the last day of events. I was just, I'm not going back. You cannot pay me to go back to that pool and compete. I started getting sick. And so I'm sure it's a nice pool.
Just not in December.
That weekend that I was there, I made a promise I'll never go back to that place. I mean, like, you couldn't pay me enough money to go back to that place. It was dreadful, but whatever. Like I said, I'm sure it's a nice place when there's, you know, it's nice out, but yeah, it was a mistake to host that meet there in December. So,
well, thank you, Kelsey, again. That's two back-to-back really good stories right there. All right. So if I had to guess what Paralympic sport you would do, let's say swimming tomorrow is just not a thing. Right. What Paralympic sport would you do? And I think with what Kelsey told me, if Kelsey's research is correct, it would be Paralympic bobsledding. Is this true?
That is true.
So
however,
let's talk about that. There's a however. Okay.
Time out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Paralympic mono bobsled because like literally it's just the pilot, right? So there's no whole team like pushing it down and then getting to start and like jumping in. It's just the guy who's driving the sled. That event did not get picked up for Beijing. Everyone thought it was going to, but didn't have enough, you know, competitors or delegations that were in favor of it. So it's actually not an event being, you know, competed in Beijing in 2022. I'd love to try mono bobsled. Like if I had I'd go tomorrow. I mean, that sounds like a great time. But because it's not actually an event, I'll pick an answer. I'll pick a sport that would be, you know, competed in. That's a good question. Not swimming. That's tough. Truth be told, I haven't played much other stuff, like adaptive versions of them. Yeah. You know, I love playing like a game of horse or something like that, you know, in the driveway when I was a kid. So I guess wheelchair basketball would be like something up there for me. Those guys are so talented though. Like, I mean, they're so far out of my league. It's ridiculous, but I have big hands and I have an extremely long wingspan and a smooth jump shot. But no, just kidding. Like my whole family. So I'm the shortest guy at 6'2" in my father's side of the family. Wow. I mean, they're giants. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I grew up in a basketball family. I've had, you know, cousins play in the NCAA tournament, and my brother Adam was a high school varsity player, and he ended up doing high jump in college. But yeah, I mean, everyone loves basketball in my family, so I'd probably be basketball, just because bobsled will not be offered, but I'd be all in on bobsled.
Okay. Well, let me talk to my people. Let me see if I can get no.
Yeah.
Maybe after this, you might get a few calls from because you're 6'2" with a long wingspan and you got big hands. So seems like someone that would be transition pretty well into wheelchair basketball.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think so. Honestly, I was actually coincidentally looking at this last night because I think one of Kelsey's roommates or something like that, another woman on the team texted me and was like, "What's this about bobsled?" And I was like, "Who are you talking? What are you talking about?" And she was like, "Kelsey's talking about you being a bobsledder all of a sudden." And I was like, "Whoa, time out." So I started like looking at. I wanted to make sure. I was like, I actually don't think bobsled got picked up because I remember hearing that, and so I was looking at the event list, and I actually you start on the internet and you just go down your little wormholes, and I was like, well, how much would it cost to buy like a sled ski, like an adaptive skiing equipment, so that I can't stand on my legs and ski. That's just definitely not in the cards for me. Yeah. But that adaptive piece of equipment, it's called a monoski, and it like has kind of like a seated.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. I've never tried that, but it looks like it's a blast. And so that would be maybe another runner in there. Having done it 0 times, I don't know if I'd be able to just, ski lift up and make a team, but it looks like it'd be a good time. So,
yeah. Well, that's all the information, the insider information that I got from Kelsey.
I guess.
So, thank you, Kelsey, for that. I just want to ask
you again, Kelsey. No more conversation.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. She's a former Purdue swimming athlete here.
Yeah, so she's a swimmer now. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a swimmer now. She said that. Yeah. So let's just hear one personal question, like a favorite movie or favorite show.
Ooh. Favorite movie. Good Will Hunting. That's. I mean, loaded cast. You got Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Casey Affleck, Robin Williams. Great storyline. Kind of a pretty close story, obviously, to my life. Super genius, custodian. That's obviously basically been my entire life story. So it's kind of more of a biopic than anything. No, I'm just kidding. But I do like that movie. Favorite TV show, it'll always be The Office for me. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you guys, and I think we were like more Office driven. But
I've seen it.
Yeah, I mean, like
I didn't see it live, but
sorry,
I didn't watch it live, but I watched it.
I remember like having friends come over to like watch on Thursday nights because like new episode of The Office was on.
That's pretty cool.
But truth be told, I love television like more than movies nowadays. I used to be a really big movie guy, but I mean, New Girl, The League, Parks and Rec, show on Hulu called Letterkenny. I love. It's a Canadian TV show. Peaky Blinders. That's kind of like my intense kind of show. Game of Thrones, just watched that.
Good.
I can get into a TV show and be fine. Like, I don't need to go out and hang out with friends. Like, what are you doing tonight? I got things I got to do and just click play, But favorite movie, Good Will Hunting. Favorite TV show, The Office. That's what I'd say.
That sounds good with me.
Yeah,
I love The Office, New Girl. I watch Game of Thrones as well too. So
nice.
I like the range that we got right here.
Yeah, I mean, I can find a lot of things entertaining. I mean, like just give me a storyline, I'll follow along.
Well, I have no more notes on you, no more insider information. Is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap this up?
No, just hopefully people are learning something, right? Like, and talking about shows and movies. The thing that I'm looking most forward to in kind of the next decade or so is like Game of Thrones is a great example, right? Like Tyrion, the dwarf character, he was just a dwarf, like there wasn't a whole elaborate story. It was just like he was born with dwarfism.
Yeah.
Right. I would love to see. Sorry.
gamey with his hand.
Yeah, I would love to see more things that like a person with a disability or an impairment or anything is just like a character, and it's not even talked about because like that's just the normal thing, right? Right, like that's like a character having blonde hair. That's like a character, you know, having an accent or something like that. It's like, yeah, that's what they are. That's who that, you know, why wouldn't they? Because that's what they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like, hopefully, the direction of creating, you know, we're normal people, right? Like you're missing a leg. My legs don't work that well. I still have friends. Like I still eat meals, right? Like I'm not just a leper cast away from society, right? But
Yeah.
for some reason, you don't see that like range of diversity in films and like movies and things, and I would really like to create more normalcy in that. So I mean, I don't have the ability, I'm not a filmmaker or anything like that, but you mentioned we, you know, before in our meeting before, you know, actually recording this, kind of like, you know, what do you hope to see? You know, that's something I hope to see is like more, you know, people with disabilities or impairments like being actors and being involved and it not being a whole topic of conversation. I think you can just talk to them and they can be a part of a role and be vital to a show and bring value. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree. And if there's any talent agencies out there, I'll nominate you as well as myself. Just like a little background extra, maybe a few speaking roles, like
Yeah,
100.
yeah.
We'll take that.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's start getting rid of the stigma, but like call us first.
Yeah, yeah. I'm first in line, but like let's get rid of the stigma. But I'm definitely first in line.
I'm definitely, yeah. I could use a nice little resume filler right there. So
For
no, I'm very happy that you mentioned that because I do think about that often too.
Yeah.
And same thing, like I'd say the same thing. Like this guy has blonde hair, this guy has brown hair, this guy has a prosthetic. Like it should
Right.
be. This guy has a like it should just be in the same
Right.
scope.
It literally changes the person in no way, shape, or form. You know.
Exactly. I agree completely.
No, but you know, hopefully I go to Tokyo and NBC announced unprecedented coverage of the Paralympics this year. So anyone listening to the podcast, I encourage you guys to tune in and support Team USA and just support the entire movement in general. A lot of amazing people out there, and the more you tune in, the more you learn about these unbelievable stories. My story's pretty tame, actually. It's like kind of mundane. Actually. Like I was just born with it, right? Like I know a guy whose leg was bit off by a great white shark. Like that's insanity. You know, it's crazy. So the more you listen, the more you watch, the more you learn, the more you change, and the more people that get changed because of this, the better this world is. So just encourage you guys to tune in and not just support me, but you know, everyone competing.
Thank you for that. I think that's a really good place to leave it.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for listening. And as always, follow us on social media and we'll have everyone else's information that has helped out as well. So this has been the third RIISE podcast where inclusivity is our priority. Everyone have a good day.